Dear God, today as this session opens, we pray that your presence will be before us and everyone who serves in the decision-making process of our city. We pray for direction which will lead our city to be strong and unified. May we continue the legacy of our founders. May we be granted this day the wisdom to make decisions which will be for the good of our city. We also pray for your special blessing on all those who are working to transform our city and make it a better place to live and work. Amen. If you please honor our nation's flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Councilor Martin.
Here.
Councilor Madonza.
Here.
Councilor Mercia.
Here.
Mayor Murphy.
Here.
Councilor Noon.
Here.
Councilor Elliott.
Here.
Councilor Kennedy.
Here.
Councilor Leahy.
Here.
Councilor Laurie.
Here.
9 present.
Thank you. First, on the mayor's business, we have a citation recognizing MVP testing as a new business in the city. On behalf of the City Council, I'll offer this citation. Be it hereby known to all that the City of Lowell and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts hereby welcomes MVP Testing, LLC, to its newest location at 262 Merrimack Street. A nationwide leader in DNA genetic testing, the science that tells us who we are and from where we came, MVP provides a service that helps individuals reveal what years ago would have otherwise remained a mystery. Answers that bring peace of mind and help to bring families together. The entire city of Lowell extends its deepest wishes to MVP for great success in Lowell, given this, at that time, 11th day of October, 2013. Congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I could just, through you to the members of the City Council, I'm Attorney Colleen Gary. I represent MVP Testing. With me tonight is Laura Blair and Joseph Blair, the owners of the corporation. They are a woman and minority-owned business certified by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. They work with Department of Revenue as a third-party witness for many cases, for all cases. One of the things that I found most interesting about this business is not only do they get involved with family law and paternity testing and so forth, but they also do a lot. The majority of their business is immigration law. Especially with Cambodians and some of those others, that records were not found for family members. When the person is here legally and wants to bring another family member over, DNA testing is the key to being able to bring over another family member legally. In addition, another aspect which I think is so interesting for the city of Lowell is they do historic DNA testing. So if something was found in a mill or so forth, and you wanted to go back and try to prove that it was somebody's property, you'd be able to try to figure that out with the DNA that was available. So there's a lot of great things. They're very excited. This is a second location. First location has been in Lawrence since 2010. They are formed in New Hampshire, but legally registered here in Massachusetts since 2008. And they're very excited about being here. We know that the open house was a very difficult time for people to be there, but they welcome you anytime from 9 to 4:30, Monday through Friday, and Saturdays by appointment. They'd love you to come over and see their facility. And the testing they do is just a cheek swab. So it's a very easy situation. They work with embassies across the world to get this immigration stuff done. And they're very excited about being here in Lowell and being in eyesight of the City Hall. So thank you very much. Do you want to say anything?
Yes, I do. I want to thank you all for welcoming us. And I'd like to clarify something in reference to the immigration. I think we have a right to know who's coming into our country, and the only way is through the DNA testing. Documents have been frauded, have been scanned, have been altered, and that's the only way they can control. So I think all of us want to know who is coming to the country. That's one of the major things we are here. A lot of people here are probably from Cambodia and Vietnam, and they can vouch for that. They know that that's something that's done. In the reference to the legal testing, it's not the bulk of our business. It's probably 10%, but I think we do help a lot. When you're able to identify a father that father has now the obligation to pay child support to the Department of Revenue. That's one person, one child that's off our tax money, which comes from welfare. So that is important. We shouldn't be seeing it as something like low class. We should be seen as helping a child get in touch with the father and making that father responsible. So that's the 10%, but we're there to help. And the reference to the historical part, we have a project we've been working for 2 years. It's a piece from a prior president. I'm not in liberty to express who they are yet until we finish with the markers. It's an amazing project. And after that, that's going to be bringing in more pieces. There's a lot to MVP that you guys don't know. There's a lot of DNA testing. We've been able to, the Innocent Project, that's something also, I don't know if you're familiar with, people that have been convicted by error or, misinformation. Our lab works with them, and it's pro bono. We don't charge, the lab doesn't charge, but we help to free somebody that's in jail. So there's a lot that we can do, and I think we can really be an asset to this community. I'd like to present my husband. He might have something to share with you. Thank you for your time.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. I appreciate you welcoming us to the city and for the citation. I just want to reemphasize what my wife said. It's a pleasure to be here in Lowell. I mean, we've been looking for quite a while to open up in the city, and we finally found the right place. At least we thought was the right place, and we hope, that it's going to prove to be so. Part of our business, is a major portion of the business is the DNA testing. We also provide drug testing services for worker safety and also for pre-employment. We've got a few clients who are in the trucking industry, and they come to us for their random testing, drug and alcohol, for their DOT compliance. Another service we offer is also CPR and first aid training, and we're spinning up one of our employees as another CPR instructor so we can try to expand that as well. All right. Well, thank you, folks. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have a citation recognizing Pastor Najim for his charitable work undertaking with the Global Transformation Network. And offer a citation on behalf of the City Council. Be it hereby known to all that the City of Lowell and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts extends its best wishes to Pastor Najim for his work with the Global Transformation Network, working to build private-public partnerships in the Dominican Republic and other communities in need to work toward a better understanding between and quality of life for all people. The entire city thanks the pastor for his dedication and efforts and wishes him well in all his future endeavors, given this 22nd day of October 2013.
May I just share a couple of words? Thank you so much. Appreciate all your efforts. It's an honor to stand before you again. And I bring you greetings from the mayors of Sao Paulo and Sao Pedro and Santo Domingo East. We had a great time here together back in July as we united those three cities with Lowell. This is what the Global Transformation Network is all about. It's about uniting cities to transform communities globally. Thank you very much for the citation. I appreciate it. God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the city clerk's portion of the agenda, we have minutes of the city council meeting of October 15th, the Education Partnerships Subcommittee of October 15th for acceptance.
Move to approve.
Move to approve by Council Laurie, second by Council Mendonça. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Council Laurie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At this time, I'd like to ask that we take one of the motions out of order, if it'd be motion number 12. We have some speakers here tonight.
Motion to suspend the rules by Council Laurie, second by Council Noon. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted.
Thank you.
Motion number, item number 12, Council Laurie requests the city manager have the proper department develop recreation programs for individuals who fall under the ADA guidelines. Second by Council Noon. Council Laurie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Over the past couple of years, we've expanded our park and recreational programs. I know we just hired I think 100 high school students for our recreational programs for this winter, but it also came to my attention. I really don't think we have any programs whatsoever for the individuals who fall under the ADA guidelines. So I'd like to make the motion that we start looking to increase the programs. But at this point, I'd just like to turn this over to the speakers who've come forward tonight.
Mr. Clerk?
Hi, I'm Jeff Wilson, Chairman of the Lowell Commission on Disabilities. I would like to thank you, Councilor Laurie, for bringing this motion forward. I definitely agree with you that the city is in need of more recreational activities for anyone with disabilities. It would help them get out in the community more, and, become more active, and it's just a good thing. My concern with this motion was that we do it the proper way and get qualified individuals to assist us in coming up with some kind of a recreational plan. And it's my hope to be able to work with the Parks and Recreation Department to come up with such a plan. We have a 9-member Commission on Disability here that is ready and willing to work with anyone to help with anything that comes up in the city, and this would be a fantastic opportunity for our members to shine. We have been trying to come up with different things ourselves, but so far nothing has really taken hold, so this motion definitely does help. And out of the 351 communities, I just would like to let you know that there are approximately 160 commissions on disability active in this state, and Lowell happens to be one of them. And so we're very lucky to have a commission on disability, and I just want to let the council know and city department officials that we are here and eager to work with anyone on any type of disability issue that comes up in the future. You'll notice probably over the next year or so that more and more people will be active in the community, as we have a few things that we are working on in the pipeline. So you'll be seeing more and more of us around town. Since I've been chairman, I've been trying to encourage people to get out and become more active in the community and to build more working relations with each department in the city, because we are here for the city and we're happy to have anyone come and use our resources. We have a meeting once a month. It's the second Thursday of every month. The public is always welcome, and we also have a phone line. I'm hoping to get the website updated soon with that, and just for the information, it's 978-710-9005. If anyone else has any ideas of things that you would like to see us address, we welcome your suggestions. Thanks for the opportunity, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Corey Erickson?
My name is Corey Erickson, and I live at 36 West Meadow Road. I'd like to thank Councilor Laurie for his continued commitment to the city's recreation programs and speak in support of the motion. I'd like to recognize the City Council as a whole for their support of additional city-sponsored activities and Manager Lynch through his staff's professional administration of them. To me, it's a great example of just how Plan E government is all supposed to work. In recent years, the City of Lowell has instituted new recreational programs free of charge to residents. They generally occur on school vacations and during summer months in parks, schools, and local businesses. They offer arts and crafts, tot shops, field and floor hockey, lacrosse, martial arts, tennis, ice skating, basketball, and discounted admissions to attractions and local events. My daughters and I, friends and neighbors, have participated in some, and I'd like to report the benefit these programs have in the city. They provide needed seasonal employment for teenagers as counselors and offer safe athletic activities for younger children. I know some funding is uniquely accommodated through law enforcement Shannon grants, as they are an important resource and tool for diverting kids from drugs, gangs, and nonsense by providing healthy recreation in a positive environment. I don't think too much needs to be said about this motion particularly. There are some excellent local, private, and nonprofit organizations that support families of those with special needs. I've learned some can be costly, while others have associated fees. Some of you may know I have a 6-year-old nephew, also named Corey, with autism. Or you know yourself, families with special needs. I can tell you no one, except those touched by this, could possibly express the dedicated personal sacrifice these families make to support their child's development. As a municipality, we create every opportunity for their special education experiences. However, their occasion to participate in athletics is very limited. Regular physical activity is important for the development of our own healthy children, and considerable research shows how vital it is to the body, mind, and spirit of the disabled. Obviously, with the coming election, public safety and business development and our future path have become central topics. I just wanted to mention these items are interrelated, and it's programs like the one that's offered here tonight that strengthens our community and helps to balance Lowell, a city we live in while others visit. I respectfully ask that you consider creating recreational programs for Lowell's disabled. They are a special minority deserving of our efforts and resources. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank the speakers. I'd like to thank the speakers for coming forward tonight, and I feel much better now. We have the support of the commission, and I think there's many programs, as Mr. Erickson has said, we don't have to even discuss with the police department what they've done over the years. They've been a fantastic resource for the kids in the city. So I'm going to let the motion go from here. I'm sure we'll go to the managers, the Parks Department. I know with Tom Belgard, what a great job he does, and working with the commission. I think this is going to be a great program for the city of Lowell. Thank you.
Any further discussion on this motion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Moving back to the regular agenda, we have the city manager, communication from city manager, responses to city council motions and requests. Any discussion? Council Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the manager. Mr. Manager, regarding F, which is a response to my motion, which I think is also before the Public Safety Subcommittee at this time. The, in your communication, it indicates that it says how these vehicles were acquired, but I'm not seeing that on the list. Unless I'm just missing it somehow.
No, I think you're correct, Councilor, that it doesn't indicate that. Let me go back and redo that, get that additional information. I think it talks about some of the different ways we acquire in terms of the ones we buy, the ones we take from, confiscate from people, criminals. But I don't think it, and certainly there's the other way we acquire is through grant money. But this vehicle by vehicle specificity is not there, so we can add that in. We'll go back and do that.
Thank you. And then, if I could, just one other thing while we're on the city manager's part of the agenda. For next week, could we get an update on the Gorham Street project, the Butler School project? I was by there the other day, and there doesn't seem to be anything going on there.
Sure, we'll get that.
Council Laurie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to thank the administration for one of the motions that came back this week, and that's for designing parts of Fletcher Street as a school zone. I was out there last spring, and this actually came from a conversation I had at the little coffee shop at the corner of Butterfield and Fletcher. And it came to my attention at that time that it wasn't a school zone. We have the school right there on the common, yet Fletcher Street, there was actually no place for the children to cross. So I want to thank Adam Bakey's department and the work they did, and they're going to create a school zone somewhere between, I guess, Father Sorrento's Way and Willie Street in that area. The other thing I'd like to thank is the administration on the results of the splash pool going out at O'Donnell's Park. I guess we're going to have a grand opening on October 30th, but that was another motion I put in last spring to increase the number of splash pads. Shed Park is a busy park. The kids seem to enjoy it. I put in 4 or 5 locations, and O'Donnell's Park is going to get one next year. I'm sure the people out in Sweet Village are going to be very happy. And of course, it's for the use of everyone in the city. There's plenty of parking there. I think it's going to be a great facility.
Mr. Manager?
No, I was just going to point out it's a groundbreaking. This will be
Yep.
taking place out at that, right? So, on October 30th.
October 30th. Yeah.
They won't be splashing around just yet.
Not yet, well, unless it's raining.
Never know.
Any further discussion? Councilman Danza?
Hey, yes, going back to the police vehicle report, seems to indicate that they rotate to replace the vehicles, and the report says 50% per year, and it says that they buy 7 vehicles in the budget and 2 with STEP. That's 9 vehicles, and that means that they probably have 18 in service. No?
That's incorrect.
Okay, so how does that work then?
We acquire, I believe it's more like, we buy 7 to 8 vehicles a year, I believe it is, generally.
Yeah, that's what, it says 7 vehicles per year.
Right. So
Out of the
it's-
budget.
Right,
And 2 additional traffic vehicles using STEP
correct.
funds. So that's about 9 vehicles a year.
Yeah, that's less than 50%. That's closer to probably 15%,
15
I would guess, yes,
of marked vehicles?
correct. Let me
Right,
follow up on that, if I could, Councilor.
Yeah,
Bernard.
I'm just thinking of how many vehicles needed to do coverage on a 3 shifts.
Correct.
They probably reuse some of these vehicles, but to me, I mean, and that's the complaint I'm receiving, is that there's 140 vehicles that we're keeping just for police use. And it seems that's a huge number compared to what might be needed for the officers to use undercover and unmarked vehicles used for other uses. It just seems like there would be a significant number of vehicles, I don't know what that number would be, that maybe are not needed. In which case, they're taking up space somewhere, there's a parking space that they're using up. And, I mean, that could be the reason why some of our employees are parking on the street. We don't have parking spaces wherever, because they're being used by some of these vehicles. So it might behoove the administration just to work with the police department to see if there are excesses that we could release, not replace, or just why keep the inventory if we don't really need it? And I think you just need to go through that exercise to determine what's needed and what we could release. They're probably not going to be very valuable, what we do release, but then we at least would not have vehicles taking up space if we're not really using them.
Mr. Manager?
I agree, Councilor, and it is something that we have been doing some talking about for some time now, just kind of going through this. But, I think it's important to note that these aren't just cars. These are motorcycles, these are, trailers, these are boats. There are, a number of different pieces of, or types of vehicles that we're talking about here. There's an ATV in here, there's animal control, there's sign shop. It isn't just police. My car is actually in here as well, so is one of these. There's also a large number of, there is excuse me, a certain number in here that are essentially skeletons for parts that we utilize. And we do have storage areas that we have for these vehicles so they're not out there taking up spaces necessarily on the street. And they are drawn upon at various times for various purposes. But we are reviewing the total number to see if there's some areas there that some could be sold. You're correct. You're not going to get much in the way of money for these. They're virtually worthless. We don't pay for, we don't have to pay for the costs that other people may, or businesses may have to pay for in terms of insurance, in terms of registration, inspection. I believe we do pay for inspection, but we don't have, they're not being used, so there's no use costs that are going with it. When I say used, they're not being used constantly. They're there and at specific times, but we are reviewing that, but I'll take that
Yeah, just a
recommendation.
recommendation.
Yep.
I mean, it gets to be like, I know years ago, I haven't seen this recently, but sometimes you'd go through municipal buildings and you'd find hallways with computers stacked up.
Correct.
That were all out of date, not used anymore, and we just need to clean that up. And sometimes just going through the effort of going through the inventory and saying, there's no need for this anymore, and cut down the number so doesn't seem like a large number.
I agree, Council.
Thank you. On the, another item that was, I think, Councilor Elliott's motion regarding code inspectors, it seemed like it was a positive in the sense that virtually all except the most recently hired inspectors are fully certified by the state. So it seems like one code inspector and one building inspector that is still going through the process. And the building inspector, I believe you states in the report that they just have to wait for the actual board at the state to meet to certify.
That's
but
correct.
that the tests have been passed.
That's correct.
Which is very good. And the sanitary code inspector just happens to be newly hired and still has 6 months to go through the process.
Correct.
So I think it's very good that we've come quite a bit, or come quite a long way from the days where virtually none of them were fully certified. They were all working through it, but now they've attained that certification.
Mr. Manager.
Well, thank you, Councilor, and as you may recall, and it goes back some years ago now, 7, 8 plus years ago, we did have a number of inspectors, including the building commissioner, who were not certified, but, and that, was really a problem. Since the reorganization, we've made important strides in getting that remedied, and this reflects that, so thank you.
Now it's just a matter of retaining them.
Correct.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Manager.
Councilor Elliott.
Thank you. Can I go back to the police vehicles? Because I also agree, Mr. Manager, there just seems to be there's a lot of vehicles in the police department. Can you tell me, the ones that are assigned to individuals, are they allowed to, are those the ones that are taken home? Or do we know how many are taken home? Because I understand whether they're, confiscated from drug busts or other means, or if they've outlived their use. There's still some costs associated with fuel and maintenance. So there just seems to be an awful lot of vehicles here, unmarked vehicles that I'm going to presume they're being taken home because they have individuals assigned to them.
No, and I'll get you I'll have to go back and do work on that to get you that specific. But no, very few, as you recall, Councilor, back when I first became city manager, we made some changes in that, and I reported, and I think that was an issue for you at the time. And we reduced that number dramatically back in 2006, 2007, and that has not changed. But I'll have to get you those.
Okay. Is there a need for all of these? I mean, some of them, I will say, they have a legitimate, purpose. But as you mentioned, 141. There are some, some of them are motorcycles or other units. But in large part, there's still, what I can gather, about 124 vehicles. And out of those 124, I counted only 16 marked. One housing patrol, so 17, and the others are spare. So I appreciate the fact you can do a little bit more homework on this, because I think when we're looking at, reducing some costs, I don't want to hamstring the department, but there seems to be an awful lot of vehicles here that I don't know, maybe that we could take a look at and maybe not need. I guess I had a question. There's a vehicle to the community, and I'm not picking on anybody. I just looked at, one particular vehicle to the communications director. Do we know why he would have a vehicle?
That's not a take-home vehicle, but I will, we can,
It just caught my eye. I was just kind of curious.
right, right. And I don't have any detail on that. I do think, it's important to stress again that they're not actually, I understand, you have to at least maintain them so that they are available to go out, but there's not a lot of cost that goes with these. And a good number of them are used for surveillance, and obviously you don't use the same ones for surveillance every time. You try to mix that up. But
Like I understand traffic enforcement, I
we'll
understand
go
prisoners.
through and do some more work on this for the council.
Rifle response team, could you get us an update on, they have a vehicle, a marked vehicle.
Which one is that again, Council?
Rifle response team?
Okay.
I didn't know we had a rifle response team, but this is going to the Public Safety Subcommittee anyway, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
So we can.
All right, well, thank you, I appreciate it.
Council Noon and then Council Leahy.
Thank you, Mayor. Return to the number of city or police vehicle. I know that I spoke to the acting superintendent about it at the Public Safety Subcommittee meeting this past October 8th, and I know that it's on the agenda for the subcommittee to have further discussion on this issue. 141 vehicle and motorized equipment seem a lot, and she's indicated that approximately, I believe it was like 57 is marked, so in other words, cruiser. There's a number of unmarked cruisers, so if you really add them all, I don't see that 50 somewhat vehicle marked cruisers is a lot for a city of Lowell. She's also indicated that the acting superintendent that a lot of the other vehicle that was there basically to use the part as the manager indicated when the cruiser broke down and whatnot. So I too like to see a report on it, a detailed report, hopefully from the acting superintendent at the next subcommittee of public safety to just iron out to see whether or not do we have sufficient or we have more than we needed, and so and I believe she's also indicated as well, if I may add, that a take-home vehicle or unmarked is only assigned for certain officers or detective that is on call, so to speak. So let's wait for a full report from the acting superintendent to see, and then we can have that further discussion on this topic. But I totally support the police department and their effort, and I know that they do their best with little they have at their disposal. Thank you.
Council Leahy.
Thank you. Couple of questions, but on the police report, while we're talking about that, I think part of the issue too is where we store the cars, and when you go to the arena, I think we use the first floor or the basement floor, whatever floor that is, over at the AOT parking garage. So, people see all the cars there, and some of them are gathering dust, and I think that's where some of the questions come from. So, I'll wait till we get further reports, but I just wanted to bring that up too, because I think that's where a lot of the questions come from. On a couple of the other motions, the bus sign was removed at 438 Varnum Ave, but they did keep the pole up. I didn't know, would they go back for the pole? Okay, all right. And then the other thing on the Fletcher Street, the motion by Councilor Laurie. I was up there today a couple of times, and I think this is a good idea because even it was like 5:45 in the morning. They fly down that street, and then in the afternoon they're flying too. So I think this will be a good thing. It's going to slow the traffic down for the kids and for the businesses around there. So thank you for that.
Council Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the manager. Just back to the police vehicles, just one more time. I understand that a lot of these are marked vehicles that are being cannibalized, and I also can tell from the list, as everybody else can, that there's some watercraft and motorcycles and specialized vehicles. My focus, and the reason that I was interested in why we have them and how we acquired them, is the first one, the 34 unmarked vehicles ranging in model year from 1998 to 2012, which I guess that list is comprised of Ford and Chevy Savans and SUVs. Those aren't old cruisers that we're using. And if they go up to 2012, now maybe only one on the list goes up to 2012, I have no idea, but they certainly have some value. But I guess what's puzzling to me, and the reason that I've kind of been pressing on this, is just how did we end up getting these cars? These are not, there's another item where it says 25 unmarked seized vehicles. And so the 34 unmarked vehicles, that range from model year 1998 to 2012, have to be something a little bit different. And I understand this is before the subcommittee, and the subcommittee ran out of time before this could come up. And so, but if we could get that report, I think we've been waiting a long time for it. So the sooner we could get it, the better. And that's really why I was interested in how we came to acquire all of these vehicles.
Council Mercia?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It is quite a large list. We do have a legitimate concern, 140 vehicles. I'm glad that there is discussion on it. I'm glad it's going to the proper subcommittee. I know that you see a list. I know that it entails other vehicles. I'd like to know how many we set aside for parts, if that's the case. I want to know how many vehicles are active and how many are inactive. Maybe we could tell that way, because the list didn't actually tell me. It looked like we were using them all. How many are unoperable? Could we have that on a list and try to figure that out? That'd probably narrow it down some. Thank you.
Any further discussion on the communications? Councilor Elliott.
Thank you. We received a response. Actually, it wasn't a response. It was just an update on a motion by Council Mercier that I had also sent an email on regarding the 933 Varnum Ave. And Mr. Manager, I think it was the Parks Department that did, DPW that did go out, and they did cut back the brush. They're actually white pine trees on this area, but I think, as we mentioned last week, it is a dangerous intersection, and has become more dangerous as a result of the traffic patterns that were changed for all of the streets, Magnolia, Delaware, Dunbar, and they're all one way, so all the cut-through traffic, and rightfully so, now is funneled to Old Ferry Road, but the intersection has become naturally more traveled, so it becomes more dangerous, and the job was a good job, but they stopped just at, one set of pine trees, and as the memo indicates, this is private property. So it really is not the responsibility of the city, and so the next parcel of property on Varnum Ave is a condominium complex. I don't know how to go about getting these trees trimmed back, but it's a very dangerous corner. And a lot of people coming out of Duville Manor, the nursing home, they've expanded, so I don't know how this is going to maintain, but the brush still needs to be cut back to, this says 919. 919 has some significant brush too, and I'm sure it's on private property, but it definitely is an obstruction and creating a traffic problem. So I don't know what to do about it. I don't know what the city can do about it. It is on private property. But can we reach out to those two homeowners and see if they can? It definitely needs to be cut back significantly.
We'll follow up on that.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion on the communications? Entertain a motion to accept and place on file. So moved by Councilman Johnson, second by Councilor Lori. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Being after 7 o'clock, we'll move to general public hearings. We have an ordinance to amend the zoning, section 4.3.6, regarding construction trailers. Motion to waive the full reading by Councilor Martin, second by Councilor Lori. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. In City Council ordinance. An ordinance amending the code of the City of Lowell, Massachusetts with respect to Chapter 290 thereof entitled Zoning by amending Section 4.3 entitled Accessory Uses, specifically Section 4.3.6 entitled Temporary Building or Use, by inserting new subsections regarding construction trailers. At this time, it'll open up for those wishing to speak in favor. In favor. In favor. Seeing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Open it up for those wishing to speak in opposition. In opposition. In opposition. Seeing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. What's the wish of the council? Councilor Mercier. Move approval by Councilor Kennedy. Seconded by Councilor Mercier. Any discussion?
The discussion. It's not that I'm opposed to this, and I'm thrilled that it's brought down from 90 days to 60, but when there's a project going on and we have construction equipment, trailers and things like that, even 30 days seems like a lot of time. Really, it does. I'd like to see it gone in less than a week, but I guess 30 days is better than nothing, but I mean, 60 days, I wish it were less than that. I still think from 90 to 60, I don't know why we can't have it less time than that. That's still a long time. 60 days after a job is completed, that's a long time still. I don't know what the rationale of this is. To me, even 30 days, I mean, if you lived in a neighborhood where they were building a home and you see the construction vehicles still there for 60 days, that's quite a long time. I'd like to see it gone in within a week, but that's just me, I don't know.
Mr. Bakey, would you like to address that?
Ultimately, it is certainly the City Council's discretion what time to assign to this, but when we following the motion of, I believe it was Councilor Kennedy that introduced this proposal, we reviewed it with the building commissioner, and he identified that there definitely are circumstances, particularly the larger construction projects that often employ the construction trailers, where there is a fair amount of basically paperwork that's involved in closing out the project after construction on site is substantially or in some cases fully complete. There is still a fair amount of work that needs to be done to wrap up the job and properly document it and so forth. And that is typically done by the people, the workers from the construction company who are in residence in those trailers, not living there, but actually working out of those trailers. That's where they complete that work. There are other cases where you have a large phased project, and one very obvious example of this is the Hamilton Canal District, where the same ownership or developer entity may have a trailer and they may want to use it for multiple buildings, and rather than demobilizing it and then bringing it back, they may want to have the time, if there's a couple of months between active construction on one phase before active construction on the next phase begins. And that's really the reason to allow for some time. I think you are correct that in cases where it simply is a relatively modest project, many of which don't even involve a construction trailer, a shorter time than 60 days should be ample, both before construction starts and after it ends. But there definitely are legitimate reasons why, in certain cases, someone might want to have a construction trailer on site for 60 or potentially even 90 days. But that's, obviously, it's up to the council how they want to proceed with something like that.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Kennedy?
I think I'm good.
Any further discussion? Councilman Johnson?
Just to clarify, this is making it more restrictive. Were there any restrictions before, or was it open-ended through the mayor to Mr. Baking?
Yeah, there are restrictions on the use of temporary construction trailers written into zoning, but they're mostly at the discretion of the building commissioner in terms of whether they want to permit this use. This prescribes some very specific time limits that don't exist today.
Okay, that was the point. So we're going from what could be open-ended to a strict 60 days maximum.
Yeah, 60 days before and 60 days after construction. Obviously, during construction, there is no time limit as long as construction continues.
Okay, thank you.
Council Martin. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Counsel Martin.
Yes.
Counsel Madonza.
Yes.
Counsel Mercia.
Yes.
Mayor Murphy.
Yes.
Counsel Noon.
Yes.
Counsel Elliott.
Yes.
Counsel Kennedy.
Yes.
Counsel Leahy.
Yes.
Counsel Laurie.
Yes.
That's 9 yeas.
Thank you. Next, we have a utility public hearing for National Grid underground conduit for 6th Street. I'd open it up for those wishing to speak in favor.
Good evening, David Boucher, Senior Design Technician, National Grid, 1101 Turnpike Street, North Andover. This petition is for 6th Street, where we're asking for 2 conduits to run our primary wire onto the property off of pole 11. It's approximately 8 feet, and that would go onto the private property in order for us to provide electricity.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? In favor? Seeing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? In opposition? Seeing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. What's the wish of the council?
Move approval.
Move,
Refer
motion
to
to
the-
refer to a wire inspector for report and recommendation. So moved by
Second.
Council Mercia, second by Council Martin. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Thank you. Next, we have for National Grid and Verizon New England, a pole location at Stedman Street. Open it up for those wishing to speak in favor.
David Boucher once again. Excuse me. We're asking for a new pole location. It's part of the solar project up off Stedman Street. Currently, the pole that we'd like to use has a transformer on it, and this new pole we would move our transformer to and use the pole that's there to begin our takeoff to the solar site. And if the city would grant it, it would enable us to place the new pole so that the solar project could go forward.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? In favor? Seeing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? In opposition? Seeing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Entertain a motion to refer to the wire inspector for report and recommendation. So moved by Council Martin, second by Council Laurie. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted.
Nay. I'm a nay on that.
1 nay by Council Leahy.
Can I speak on it now, or can I just make a comment?
Council Leahy.
Thanks. Is Verizon going to speak on this too, or no? Okay.
Verizon is not here.
All right, that's what I thought. But, you know, before we already passed it, and we're going to get another report. Last year, we brought up about the double poles, and we brought a team here from Verizon and National Grid, and they did a good job. And they pulled out a lot of poles, but still, over the summer and now, there's still a lot of double poles. So either we ask them to come back in and explain to us again what's the slowdown, or stop granting some of these, because there's a lot of poles that are ready to come out, and there's a lot of poles that are just telephone wires on them. So it seems like National Grid's been doing their job, but I don't know where Verizon is.
Mr. Manager.
Council, we can get a report on where they are. I do know that they, you know, these poles do require the cooperation of all the different utilities to deal with the problem. I don't believe this one has Verizon in it at all. This is just a National Grid because it's just serving the, and it's just, this is for the city's solar project.
Actually, it's an inline pole with our main line that we're asking for. So Verizon's going to get on that pole.
Yeah, we'll be getting on it.
Because it's right in line. We're just getting that pole so that we can take off, and all those other poles will be, Verizon won't be on them.
But clearly, it's in the city's interest to move this pole. If you
Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch up on Fruit Street, Plain Street, there's a couple over on Moore Street, and they're just, and some of them are cracked in half and just, you know, they're ready to come out, so if we can push that. I know Henry's not here tonight, but he's been doing a great job keeping on top of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Under reports, the subcommittee reports, we have the Finance Subcommittee of October 22nd, 2013. Councilman Donza.
Yes, this evening we held a Finance Subcommittee meeting in order to discuss how the senior center lease is funded and how we might handle it in the future. Present were myself, Councilor Elliott, Councilor Martin. Also present were Councilor Mercier, Councilor Leahy, and Mayor Murphy, along with representatives from the administration, Manager Lynch, Mr. Moses, and Mr. Bakey. We had a quick presentation on how this came about. We needed a way to get the senior center underway, and the way they could do it at the time was to provide funding from CDBG. But since then, CDBG funding has been declining, and the actual percentage used for the senior center lease is becoming a larger portion of the available CDBG funds. And so at the moment, we've gone from almost 2.9 million CDBG funds to 2 million a year in CDBG funds. And the projections right now in the current federal budget are basically level funding with a very modest increase, which keeps it very close to $2 million. And the House budget is proposing to cut it by 50%. If that were the case, that would leave us very few options on how to use our CDBG funds if we continue to use it for the senior center lease. One of the things that was brought up was the fact that we can't use general funds for things like economic development activities that might be targeted to a specific company or a specific area of development, where CDBG funds could be used for that. And so if there's a drastic cut, we could shift some of the lease funding for the senior center into the general fund to free up CDBG funds in order to be able to do more economic development. We wouldn't want to shock our budget by shifting the entire thing, and we certainly continue to have a commitment to funding this. This shouldn't impact anything that goes on at the senior center. This would be more of a budgetary matter on how we fund our obligations. So there's no commitment being made as of now, but it could be considered for our next budget to shift some of this to come from the general fund and reduce the amount that comes from CDBG. And so that, in essence, is what's being considered, but no commitments are being made at this time. And that's a report of progress. I don't know if any other members of the subcommittee would like to comment further.
Motion to accept is a report of progress, so moved by Councilor Laurie, seconded by Councilor Noon. Any discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Next, we have wire inspector, National Grid to install underground conduit from manhole to the building at 27 Prescott Street. Entertain a motion to accept and adopt the accompanying order. So moved by Councilor Mercier, seconded by Councilman Donza. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Next, we have under general petitions, one claim for property damage. Entertain a motion to refer to the Law Department for report and recommendation. So moved by Councilor Laurie, seconded by Councilor Leahy. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. A miscellaneous petition from Alicia Santos, requests one handicap parking sign at 151 Colburn Street. Entertain a motion to refer to the traffic engineer for a report and recommendation. Councilor Mercier.
Yes, as usual, I'd like a 60-day trial, so amend that to include a 60-day trial.
As amended, seconded by Councilman Donza. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Under motions, we have motion by Councilor Kennedy, request the Law Department prepare the proper vote to accept Section 16A of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 51. Seconded by Councilor Elliott. Councilor Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Let me just say at the beginning that the point of this motion, or the purpose of this motion, is to look forward into the future and not to reflect on the past. And with that said, Section 16A of Chapter 51 is existing legislation with, that spells out the way in which members of the Election Commission are to be nominated for appointment by the city manager. And basically, what it does is it provides that the city manager would notify either the Republican City Committee or the Democratic City Committee that there is a vacancy to be filled. It would give either of those committees 45 days to meet and have a quorum of the full committee nominate 3 people for the Election Commission, and then those 3 names would be sent to the city manager for his appointment. If either committee does not act within 45 days, then the city manager can just proceed without any input from either of those committees. I just think that it's a better way to do this. I've had some discussion with the law department about this. Part of the language in 16A allows for the Election Commission to hire its own staff, and I'm not sure over the long term that that's necessarily a good idea, given that there's an even number on the Election Commission, and I could see where there could be a situation similar to what we had up at the vocational school back in the spring, where there's a deadlock that doesn't get beat, so doesn't get resolved. So I think that maybe the law department can work on that, but I think that overall that this is just a good way of nominating people for the Election Commission. I think that it lets the parties get involved. It allows for a lot more people to participate in the process than the way that it is right now.
Any further discussion on this motion? Councilor Elliott.
Yeah, I think this is a good motion. I'm going to support it because I believe that anything to improve the selection process should be considered, because I think something has to be done to make sure we don't have a repeat of the selection that was presented last week that I think it embarrassed the city and has left many women outraged. I also think Mr. Nutter should still resign because of comments about a woman, especially in light of another example of him today writing nasty things about a well-respected woman, a woman that I know personally who has done so much for the community. Ms. Fallberg, I can tell you from Lowell Youth Soccer, her husband, her family are wonderful, dedicated people who volunteer hundreds of hours to this community. So I'm going to support this because it's a good process to put in place to make sure that we're not approving someone who doesn't speak nicely of women and denigrates other public officials. So I think this is the right thing to do and to put a process in place. Thank you.
Any further discussion on this motion? Councilor Mercia.
Well, for the record, I did speak to one of the top women in the Democratic Party who said that Mr. Nutter was an excellent choice. You can take that to the bank.
Councilman Donson.
Just question the process. We're going to have the law department prepare a vote, and if we have that vote, then we'd have to send it to a public hearing. Is that correct? So all we are essentially doing today is just preparing language so that we can review to send to a public hearing, then have people speak for or against it.
That's correct. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Next motion by Councilor Elliott, request the city auditor to provide a report on overtime use in the police department. Seconded by Councilor Kennedy. Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know I have followed this report in the past, Madam Auditor, and I think in light of the discussions that we've been having regarding police officers and overtime, I'd like to get a report. What I didn't include is I know we're only a few months into this fiscal year, so I think fiscal year 2013, where there were transfers in, and there was we spent almost $1 million, $947,000. But I guess what I want to see is in the past the reports were categorized by, just generally, I like this report by individual, because I'd like to see, what individuals received the overtime. So I know it's, overtime is one of the more challenging resources to manage, and I've read several audits, not only just from here, but across the country, and it's the internal controls, and it's the practices in place. So if we can get that report by individual, I think it'd be helpful, because it also came to me that, one of the senior officers just recently, came in for an 8-hour shift and was paid $850 for that shift. So I'd like to know, what the purpose of that was as well, because that seems like an inordinate amount of money for a high-ranking official to come in for an 8-hour day and get paid that amount. So 2013 and by individual would be appreciated. Thank you.
Council Lori.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just out of curiosity on the police department overtime, most contracts, the overtime is contractual. Is that the same with the police?
Well, it's contractual, and it's also governed by the Fair Labor Standards Act, federal government. So.
Oh, it usually is, but
Right.
there's usually local contract that can expand.
Correct.
I was just wondering if we had a local contract.
There are union contracts that dictate this, but also, and those really comply or match up with the Fair Labor Standards Act.
Okay, great, thank you.
Madam Auditor.
Yes, if I may ask the question, I can give you the report by individual for the entire fiscal year, but as far as deployment, I don't have actually where those individuals were. So if you're asking those questions, you'd have to ask that of the chief.
That's fine, thank you.
Council Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the manager. Mr. Manager, you might recall that either last week or maybe a couple of weeks ago, it may have been, I had asked for a report that gave the rationale as to why it was better to have a lot of overtime rather than more officers on the street.
Correct.
During the campaign season, there's been candidates' nights where I've indicated at those candidates' forums that that report is forthcoming. So I'm hopeful that it is, right?
I just reviewed it this afternoon and gave a go-ahead for it, so it should be ready for next week.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. Next motion by Councilor Elliott, request the city manager provide an update on non-emergency fire signals. Second by Councilor Kennedy. Councilor Elliott.
Mr. Manager, I filed a motion back in January on these non-emergency fire signals. And can you tell me if the contract is in place? Because it was, when we discussed this, I thought I didn't think the contract was supposed to be in place by July. And of course, I'm concerned that these, well, is it in place yet?
I'll need to get do some work to get you a full report on this, but the contract's in place, but the issue is the turnover. There's 3 different parties involved with this. There's the alarm company, there's the company that provided us the alarm, and then there's the local vendor who will be doing the monitoring for us. So there's some work going on with that. We didn't meet the July deadline that we had hoped to. I haven't had a chance. Usually I'm able to get a little bit of information on some of these before the meeting in case I get sort of put on the spot here as opposed to getting the report for you. So I don't have a full report for you tonight other than to say that it's still being worked through. I want to stress these are non-emergency fire signals. The fire signals, as you know, Councilor, are still going through into dispatch, but it's the sort of the system check signals that we're talking about here. But I'll get that report for you.
Okay, no, and I understand, and I make it clear that they're non-emergency fire signals. However, there are signals that, companies are paying for to send signals somewhere. So, and my understanding is that they're not being answered. So if there is an alarm that goes off, whether it's, I am concerned about, the safety issue that these
Sure.
signals are coming through, they're not being answered, and their sprinkler system alarms, there's a reason why they need to be in place. So, I can understand there are some issues to work through, but it's been quite some time. Is there a cost to the city to do this?
There is a cost to the city to split the signal, I think that was in the report that we gave you back in the late spring regarding this matter. The cost to the companies are not there because we haven't been billing for that. And this is a service, as you know, also know, the old Gamewell system. This is an added feature of this radio system. The old Gamewell system didn't give any of this information, so it's really nothing different than what we had before. But it's a feature that we'd like to get into, that we want to take advantage of, but we need to be able to split that off. But we'll get you that report.
Okay, I just raise it again because these signals, they're not being answered, and, they should be from the public safety perspective. There was also a lawsuit. Did we settle a lawsuit with a company?
There was another, a separate issue, but related to the alarm system, that I don't, if the solicitor wants to weigh in at all on that. I know that...
It's, we're in the process of, we've had an agreement that is finalized for all intensive purposes, and we're waiting to have it executed by the other side. There was some unexpected delays on the other side that has held up the execution, but I'm fully expecting that to be executed this week.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion on this motion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. Councilman Donson?
Just a question. Under the city managers, there was a presentation about council chamber renovation, which did not occur. If through the mayor, if the manager just updates us on that.
Just that Mr. Harmon could not be here tonight. We'll try to have him here for next week so that the council can weigh in on that issue of the color of the chamber.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilor Mercia?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the city manager, we did have a meeting, a subcommittee meeting, where we met with Chancellor Meehan, and we accepted the report as a report of progress of communication, place it on file. I just want to know, I'm just asking a question. Sure. Did we have anything, I hear things that the university either is in the process or has bought notinis. Do we know anything about that?
I do not know anything about that. I've heard that rumor from time to time through the years, but I do not know of anything concrete on that. I can look into that.
If for some reason we're anticipating that could happen, they pay $61,000 in property taxes, and I want to know, where are we going to make up this money?
Right.
So if we keep that in the back of our mind as to, it's one thing to expand, but it's another thing to take vital property off of the tax base, and we're all stuck with the burden of it.
But in that case, that gets into a more specific discussion, and that should be put on the agenda for an actual meeting. Anybody care to offer a motion to adjourn? So moved by Councilor Lowry, seconded by Councilman Donser. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted.